Just saying. Trying to stay as,
Yeah, we'll do it.
I don't like short period of time.
All else, we do have the look. We don't have the look.
I don't think it's very nice, he goes.
I just rolled in about 3 hours ago from Canada, so I haven't,
Oh, really?
I just barely been home.
Oh, you just got home from Canada?
Well,
Yeah, well, between there and Northfield and
Oh.
back.
how's my wife's cousin?
Hey,
I know, but.
You good?
FOFT.
OFD.
You know that, right?
No, I've heard that one.
Friends of Frank Terrio.
I figured the FT part, that was
Next time
FO.
you go to Geegan's,
Yeah,
if you're sitting at the bar and you look at Geegan's, he's got a big FOFT sticker right on the mirror, right there.
really?
Right there looking at you.
Wow.
He's like a charter member.
No kidding.
Everybody knows Frank.
Everybody knows. Down east, the whole deal.
He's headed to a meeting in 5 years, he'll be the Anna Potentate.
So the whole,
Yep,
wow,
he's on the fast track.
jeez. He's not, he's not that old a guy, really, right? How old is he?
He-
Early 50s?
He's in hopes to be retired by then.
Yeah, okay.
You have to have, when you're on a potentate, you have at least 5 nights a week, you're someplace
Whoa,
doing something. And you travel all over the state.
wow.
Told him I'd drive for him.
There you go.
He had to have a new truck. You know, if I'm gonna do it, I want.
Well, right, I don't blame
No,
you, right?
no doubt. That's, you gotta, if you're gonna do it, you do it right. I mean, jeez.
You know, this whole idea of like stormwater management, we can do a lot.
What else? Oh, hey,
Hey.
if you've never had a chance,
Yes?
for our international meeting, we had,
Send some pictures.
some people from the Roosevelt's Cottage come over and do a, tea with Eleanor.
Oh,
And because this is the, 75th anniversary of the, oh, what was it she did?
Because we're talking.
Human right? No, not human right. Yeah, she was in the UN.
oh, yes, that's right.
She introduced a bill that ultimately,
Yes, the Bill of Human Rights or something. Yeah, right, yes.
75 years this year.
Really?
So they're gonna have a big thing on the island and
No kidding.
feed into that with their tales.
That's awesome.
Well, what they do is they've got 5 people that do this. Each of them read the same thing, but they get something different out of it.
Oh,
So they
yeah.
all don't tell the same script.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Know more about like the
It,
whole
it was a great presentation.
I was really disappointed. We went up there 3 years ago during COVID,
I never get to go to any of their meetings.
and so we couldn't go over, and, but had a great time in town. That was
I
fun,
think at some
you
point
know,
we need to
but
do like we
couldn't go over on the island, so it was kind of a bummer. But
Harbor.
next time, another reason to go up. Check it out.
And you go visit Frankie.
That's right. That's right. I guess that'd be relatives. ROFT. I guess that would be my wife.
Pillars driven into the ground.
Me
and
by
a steel
marriage.
wall. That's the only thing it can be.
ROFT. Rot.
Yeah, and this is, you can
He has Frank has a speech impediment,
reduce it,
but when he's reading off of his
sort of, obviously. so- I
Masonic,
don't know how they do
whatever.
it, but She sort of
It's
held that
those
prospect
flows.
out that there's,
Something.
Oh, yeah, no,
Well,
he
that's,
just,
have you ever watched The King's Speech? Like, there's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of people
Yeah.
that, seriously, there's a lot of people that have speech impediments, but when they have a script, or they have,
Huh.
or they sing, or they
Type of
do whatever,
focus
they,
to it.
At some point we
they don't
Wow.
have a speech impediment.
yeah.
shifted gears.
I'll reach out to her.
Yes,
and see
sir.
who She would recommend to talk to.
You ready?
Okay, you want us to talk? We ready to roll? What's,
Ready to roll.
okay.
Okay.
Are we live?
We're live.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Sorry for the delay in getting started, some technical difficulties, but I will call to order the Rockport Select Board Budget Workshop of April 3rd. Before we get started, I do just want to make a comment on a few inquiries or emails that I've received over the last week or so. A couple of weeks ago, there was a budget discussion, and in that discussion, there was conversation regarding the position of the harbor master. There was also an article in Village Soup last week, and I just want to address, I'm not going to rehash what happened in either of those meetings or articles. It's out there publicly. But I do want to just say that as a select board, we have been reminded of what our roles and responsibilities are. We take those roles and responsibilities very seriously. And one of the items that is prohibited is us providing direction, feedback. Well, it doesn't say feedback in the charter, but that's in essence the spirit of it, that all of that is the responsibility of John. And I don't anticipate there will be any additional concerns, but like I said, we take these roles and responsibilities very seriously, and I want to make sure people realize that we have addressed that matter. So with that, we will move on. We do have 3 items for discussion this evening. One is the property value equalization, so we have Carrie with us tonight. We also have the West Rockport Fire Station bids that have come in, and then we have a budget discussion. The Budget Committee has met, has come back with one recommendation, so we'll review that in order to get everything ready for discussion on next week's Select Board meeting. So with that, we have Carrie with us tonight. We had conversation at our last Select Board meeting about the value equalization, and we agreed to come back to this meeting to further discuss it and make a decision on next steps, or at least talk about next steps. So,
All right.
Carrie,
all right.
I'll turn it to you.
Okay, well, just to recap briefly what we talked about last week, if we do nothing, our current ratio is 76%. We'll be able to certify at 84%. And that will mean that residents in Rockport, for example, the homestead exemption will be reduced from $25,000 to $21,000. The veterans exemption will be reduced from $6,000 to $5,000, and the blind from $4,000 to $3,400. Also, the implications of a less than 100% certified ratio means that ratio will be multiplied against our personal property revenues, and so that will be also reduced, which would add 4 cents to the mill rate on its own before anything else happens. So the question before us is, now, let me actually, a little more context. We're planning a full measure and list reval for 2025. So we have this year coming up, 2023, and then next year, 2024, in front of us. If we don't do anything now, the ratio will be 84%. In 2024, it will be even lower. And then in 2025, we'll get up to 100% when we do the measure and list. So between now and then, we're going to suffer some pain. So it really now I would imagine, because the real estate market has flattened out a bit, I would imagine that once we've done this update, when we do the measure and list, unless something drastically changes with the real estate market, there won't be a lot of loss or gain that way. What we'll gain, of course, is the accuracy of the data, which is why you do the measure and list. So
There's more to be lost, right? Because if you're talking about going from 25,000 to 21,000 for the average homeowner, right?
Correct.
Who has homestead.
Correct. And before I came here last time, I had done the calculation for what it would be in 2024, and I'm sorry, until this very second, I didn't realize I'd done that. So I don't know if I could pull it out of my hat, but it would definitely be lower than 84. I think, I don't want to guess.
So 84% would be what it would be in 2023, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That's
And
right.
then it would go down further in 2024.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
That's right.
And that's because of the sales figures.
Which lags 2 years, right. Correct. Correct.
And when they come in though, you can then adjust those up 8%, right?
10%.
No, I was just looking 76 to 84. That would
Well,
be-
10% of 76 is 7.6.
All right.
So you add 7.6 to
So you
the,
don't add 10% on top, you add 10% of what
10% of the number,
Of your
right,
number,
correct.
okay, that makes sense, okay.
If you had a crystal ball, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. I don't get too much into the weeds, I know you've a presentation coming, but, so next year, if you had your crystal ball, and there's adjustments based on sales from 2 years ago, do you think we would be, how far below 84 do you think we would be?
Mark, if you give me a minute, I'll look through these papers, and hopefully I have that
And I only
information
ask
here.
that because if you did the 8% on top of that again, we might be, I mean, if we're not, if you use the 84, and we went down a little bit because of the state's numbers that you
Yeah,
get refreshed as of next April,
yeah.
if it isn't below 76 again, and we refreshed with your 8%, we would still be 84 or a little bit above, wouldn't we?
If we do nothing, it'll be much lower than 76 next year.
Because we already have the data to show that.
Yeah,
All right.
because think about it this way. What we're faced with this year are the sales from 2021.
Yeah,
In 2022, they were stronger than 21.
right.
So,
No, that's fine, I didn't want to get
you know,
too
that's
far
fine. No,
off,
no, I
but-
get you. No, it's a good question. And I was just saying the trend is a steep curve downward. So if we lift it up now, as long as sales don't do that again, and it, you know, the prices haven't changed. We're still getting ratios that are 50 and 60% instead of 80 and 90. So I don't see a huge deterioration of prices. What we're seeing is a change in sales volume. You know, we're just,
There's nothing for
There's
sale.
nothing on the market.
there's
right?
very little left,
Right,
right? But when
there's
it
no
comes on, there still are bidding wars that are happening when something comes on that's particularly desirable. So, you know, I would expect that there'll be some retraction. I just don't expect it to be major. And if it is, we'll just adjust the other way, you know?
So it takes 2 years to do the reval.
Well,
No.
to do a measure and list reval, to do this update will only take a few weeks.
Okay.
So it's just a question of, is it worth it to the town for us to pay that amount, authorize that amount be paid to do that? And then we get 2 years' worth of, hopefully something closer to 100%.
Correct. Well, once we equalize this, now let's just say, for example, next year, for whatever reason, things are higher or lower than we anticipate, we'll be pretty much equalized, and it'll be very easy. We won't have to hire somebody. I can do it. And I could just adjust things up or down a little bit. And one thing that I spoke about, and for anybody listening, this is important, is that we need to do this more often so that we don't have to hire a company to do it.
Right.
Once it gets really far out of whack, then we need some professionals to come in who do this all the time. But if I'm tweaking it every year or
Routinely
every
doing
other
it,
year,
yeah.
we'll be able to maintain it where it should be and not have to have drastic leaps up or down. So that's my hope.
And what did
So
you
the
say?
work you-
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, did you say it was around 25,000 to do it?
Yes.
Is that what the
Yeah.
number was? Okay.
Yeah.
And we did this last year, right? But it's changed so much that it now isn't something you can tweak again. It's-
Right, right.
We really have.
Yeah, because there were so many sales. You know, we used to see this over the course of, say, 3 years, this kind of number of sales. And when that happens, different areas sell, you know, at a different rate, and things just go really far out of whack, as if a lot of time had passed.
Okay.
Now, we can't vote on doing that, right? We'd have
No.
to take it to Monday's meeting or,
Well, I think, so this is really an administrative
Oh, okay.
task. So I think what,
We're looking more for your blessing or not.
Right, yeah.
as
We can
kind
go
of-
ahead and
kind of
do it
like a
without-
teamwork. What do you guys think?
yeah, are we, is this a bad idea? Is this a good idea? Is this making sense? Kerry has the right to effectively do what needs to be done. If we were going to use the reserve to do that, that would be a vote that the board would have to take to,
would we need to do that?
yeah. But in terms of the,
Direction.
yeah, the
Okay.
actual, yeah.
So is there any
Policy.
benefit to us? Why does the state punish towns who are undervalued? What is the,
It's because they have to view everybody from the same lens. So what the state does is, even if we're at, you know, 76% or something, they're going to equalize us to 100% for all state business, right? So that's why they make us basically equalize the personal property to the same rate as real estate, to just to have everything by an even keel. Like when they give us the revenue sharing, they're not looking at our ratio of, our certified ratio, which would be 84% next year. They're looking at 100%.
So we get 100% of our revenue
We do,
sharing money.
we do. Yeah, yeah. So,
Does it affect like what our share of the school budget is if we're undervalued?
no, because they
or-
equalize us to 100% for the school budget as well.
Which, if you went ahead and did this, which brackets, would you select? I mean, because we have some that have already been, I don't want to say penalized,
Well,
but.
no, but we just went through a
Right.
revaluation, and a lot of people had some
So
pretty
if people
big-
got 15 or 20% raises.
Right.
Are they gonna be the same group and the other ones get ignored?
I don't think so. I mean, we're off on every category, but in the early part of the COVID market, it was the middle tier, just a little bit under, a little bit over, that saw the strongest sales. The higher value properties caught up with them in 2022. So I suspect that the majority of the adjusting would take place in the mid to upper parts.
So the 500 and above, or?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know, sorry. No, go ahead. No, I was gonna say, because I remember last time you said it was the 3 to 5.
It was, yeah.
And, I don't
They've already
want.
had a hit.
And I know,
don't have any
and
more
I
of
know
those
what you, I know what Jonathan's already said about certain properties, but, I'm trying not to give the same
Right.
Sticker shock.
sticker shock to
Right.
the
I
same.
mean, because the challenge, it's great that people are selling their houses at
And they're making some money on it,
above
yeah.
the asking, that's
Right.
great. But for the people who are staying,
That's
they're the ones that,
That's the conundrum.
right,
Yeah.
that's the challenge, right? So
Yeah.
if you plan on staying in your home and your neighbor's selling for 500,000 over, that's great for them, but now,
The rest
now I
of-
get into the
the
same
rest of
thing.
us are left holding the
Right,
bag.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, that's the challenge,
Yeah.
so.
But I'm thinking it's gonna be more of the upper, because I noticed there was a house on, oops, I don't remember the street, but it listed at 1.1 a week ago, and it's already pending,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
yeah, that's basically, like we were just saying, that's all that's left on the market.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other buyers, I mean, if you sold a ranch that we once had valued at 225,000, you sold it for 500, it's now 500, and
Yeah,
it's a whole,
yeah, there's not much under
It's-
750 that's currently listed in the real estate
Exactly.
listings
I've
for
been-
between Camden, Rockland, and us.
Right.
It's all, those are the three I watch constantly, and they're all right in the, it seems like there's a few in the 200s that are weirdly showing up on the low end, but there's a lot in the over 750 list.
Right.
That's going on the market,
right.
so.
And I think you're seeing most of it under 200 in Rockland, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yes, definitely. That south end part, like near the water. and-
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I should know 4% of the mill, to the mill rate,
4 cents.
4 cents.
Sense.
Yeah.
Is that more than $25,000? I mean, can we justify doing this work and spending this money?
I mean, we truly could go either way. I guess let me think out loud for a second. Next year, it's going to be worse. I'm sorry I don't have that number with me tonight.
So
We could decide to not do it this year, and do it next year,
But then that's silly,
but then we're right on the
Because-
heels of the revow, which
then
is,
We
Right, then
can
you've
spend
got
it
the-
now and we're good.
and that's the only reason I'm coming to you now with this.
I don't know, I appreciate that. That's-
No,
So,
it needs to happen.
and another question along those lines, as you said earlier, Carrie, that this type of thing needs to be done more often. And I don't remember whether you said yearly or whatever, but,
Yearly or every other year, yeah.
so, I guess where I'm going is we potentially are gonna be spending 25.
No,
No, what you're saying
I
is
would
the
do it.
assessor can do that.
Assessor can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
We
yeah.
won't have to
I
hire-
once, I once did it on my own in Camden in 2019. And the problem with that was that I didn't hold any hearings. I didn't do the kind of thing that KRT does all the time, send out the letters. And I got a raft of grief over that. And so I would want people to kind of be accustomed to just little tweaks here and there. And we, maybe we have a place on the website where, every year at the same time, we post what everybody's value is. So that, and if it did shift, people can see it right away. But to go through the expense and the time of having hearings for little tweaks doesn't make sense. For major ones, it certainly does. So that would be the major difference, Mark, is we wouldn't have to spend
That's
25,000.
all. I
Yeah.
wasn't aware whether you were doing it or we'd hire it out depending on the size of the tweaking that needs to be done.
And that's really it. And the other part of it is, so the real, the line in the sand is 91%. Because at 91%, we can certify at 100.
Certified 100, yeah.
So that's, you know, if we go into the program with, you know, me tweaking every year, that's what I'm looking for. As when we dip below 91%, I got to bounce us back.
So we're looking at, say we're at 76 now.
76. But we'll go lower than that, is what
Definitely.
you anticipate for next year.
Definitely.
So we need to come up 15%.
So that would be the big question, Eric, is how close to 100 do we want to go? And because, I mean, there's a chance of the market retracting a little bit. I wouldn't want to get too close to 100, but I don't want to come so far down that, I mean, this is what happened last year. I mean, I was aiming for 93% last year, and the market kicked my butt, you know? And by the time we got to April 1st, we were already down in the 80s. You know, it was terrible. So I don't want to be too cute.
So you don't want to be, don't want to be right at the 91, but you want to be somewhere in that.
Yeah, well, I went for
92,
93 and that
93.
didn't work. So,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I think this time I'd probably aim for 95 just to kind of split the difference between 100 and 90.
And
You
then
know?
it's just, well, 2025 is when you do the
The full.
full.
Yeah, yeah. But
Rebalance.
unless something drastic happens in the real estate market, whatever we do this year should carry over to next year, especially if we're at 95, 96%. I can't imagine we would drop. And if we did drop, that would be one of the tweaks, because now everybody's equalized. I can look at what areas of town dropped or what type of house dropped, and I can just nudge those up.
Yeah, I'm not expecting the real estate market to dip because,
Right.
for one, our inventory, as we discussed, is extremely tight. So while we have no inventory, I got a letter today from a realtor begging for us to put our house on the market. I
Right.
mean, literally. Yeah. You know, interest rates are up, but the chances of the Fed raising the rates in the market are considerably much lower right now, and the bet is that they will not continuing to raise rates, and maybe through the rest of the year, at the most, another half a point.
I was surprised
So-
at the last rise, yeah.
Yeah, thanks to SVB crashing, and they're, you know, they have to balance the banks against the inflationary, and today the consumer indexes, no, the manufacturing indexes were slightly lower. Now, construction index was slightly down, so that takes some heat off the inflation. So I'm not looking for another interest rate hike. So I don't see the market here cooling.
Yeah.
Stabilizing, yes. There are some houses that I've noticed some price ticks down, yeah, but they've been on the market a while, so. there's
And those are
something
asking
wrong with them.
prices. That's, you
Yeah.
know, not selling prices.
Right. So I really feel we need to bring ourselves up to the point that we can say, okay, this is probably stable at this point, unlike what we thought last year, where we still got surprised. It didn't help that interest rates stayed way low. But, you know, I agree. We need to bring us up to 93 to 95 in order to maintain these numbers. I don't feel good about telling somebody, oh, well, you're going to lose a couple thousand on your exemptions with
Yeah,
your
that
homestead
is-
and your veteran. And with that article I sent out in the newspaper from the state with that whole over 65 thing now that came out yesterday, which we
Right.
all knew was a bunch of nonsense anyway, with the fact that the way they
Didn't have
pushed it
enough money to
through.
fund it to
Right.
I mean, now they're saying it's gonna cost the state $45 million. Well, who didn't think that?
Right, right, yeah.
The people who wrote the bill, obviously, but the
they
rest
didn't
of us
think.
knew better.
Yeah.
You know, they budget $3 million. So is that program even gonna still exist? They don't even know.
Well,
So,
I co-authored a bill that is going to be considered that changes it from it repeals the stabilization program and replaces it with an enhanced homestead for seniors that's means tested. So only those,
That's what it should.
that's
Only
what it
tho-
should be.
yeah.
I agree.
Those
I
that-
saw that and I was like, that's what it should have been in the first place. Enhance the homestead for the seniors, because at least then it's giving them more benefit. from something, and the state isn't always obviously trying to foot a bill that they don't have. I said, well, it's lucky the Megabucks winner was in the state. They got the $50 million from that. They can at least afford it for another year, but beyond that, they're screwed. So
Exactly.
I don't want to leave this money sitting on the table for these people that are going to lose these exemptions. And we need to
Yeah.
get it to 100%.
That's our job.
Do we, no, I agree. Do we have any idea, though, like, how many people are in the category that could freeze their, what
We-
dollar value?
We had around 500 applications.
That's a lot.
That's significant, yeah.
And,
Out of
chunk of the town.
3,500, right? I mean.
Yeah.
well, I'm just
35,
thinking,
but not
if
that many
indeed they could get frozen,
Yep.
then we're not
Well,
going up there.
Mark, they're frozen for this year,
Yeah.
no matter
This
what
year,
happens to the program.
Right, I understand that. I was just saying, but next time around, who knows where that program's going?
Yeah,
'Cause
I mean-
They realize, oh, wow, we can't fund $45 million. Well, duh.
So I guess
Exactly.
in-
Well, the danger there, though, Eric, and it's real, the danger is because they're supposed to,
Yeah,
they're
they're
supposed to
not pay us.
reimburse us at 100%. They can take that all the way down to 50.
All right, I know, that's the problem.
That's the
We
problem.
could get every town could get a massive budget hit, and it's a good, guess it's a good thing they found extra money for the schools all of a sudden. But, you know, we gotta bring this up to where the people are at least getting their valid exemption.
So what's the overall consensus of the group, that we should
You know mine.
proceed with it? Yeah, I know yours, yeah. I think we should too. I mean, I think we owe it to our taxpayers that we're able to get them the full homestead exemption. I know that means that some of us may get an increase in our taxes. No one likes that.
Yeah. We've got that rule of thirds again. Everybody should keep that in mind, that only about a third of the population will see their taxes going up. And because your value will go up, the mill rate will go down,
Yep.
and there's some synergy there that's at
Because
play.
if we do nothing, we drop to the 21,000 for the homestead, and the mill rate goes up 4 cents. Is
Yes.
that-
Well, at least 4, just 4 cents just on personal property alone.
Okay, at least 4
Because that's the
cents,
big
okay.
one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's our consensus. It sounds like we will need to bring it to
Mm-hmm.
the select board meeting to actually vote on using the reserve to fund the
Okay.
25,000.
Yeah, and the reason it's important right now is because KRT's busy. We're getting into the busy season, and we
okay.
need to reserve their time.
Yep,
So I need to give them an indication how we're going to go.
okay. Yeah, I think that's our consensus, and, you know, I think you can engage them and start those conversations, and then we'll,
Can I ask you a quick question? Just a curiosity question, and it may not be good for this meeting, but how do some of these commercial, like the solar farms that are going in, impact these numbers?
They're good for us. The solar farm, here's an up and down. So the solar farm is not online yet.
Right.
So because they're not online, they're not eligible for the 100% exemption. Now, even if they were, we would get 50% of the taxes we didn't collect. That's just how that works. But because they're not online, they are eligible for Betty. So we still only get 50%. But it's 50% of what we didn't get last year.
Right.
So I'm finding Nexam to be an extremely cooperative company.
Okay.
The conversations I've had with them, they've been totally forthcoming. Even when I told them, I said, you're not eligible for the exemption, they said, okay. And then they came back and said, are we eligible for Betty? And I said, yes, you are. But they've been giving me all the information I need. I'm currently in the process of putting together a discounted cash flow so I could come up with what their value is. They gave me a value of $3.5 million, but that's a cost approach, which may be most applicable. I have to do the
Yeah, right.
DCF before I can be sure.
Yeah, of course.
A spin-off on that, though, if somebody has it on a piece of property that's agricultural for blueberries. do they-
If somebody has it.
Well, no, but I'm just saying.
Like, maybe they do.
But I mean, are there
Yeah.
any adjustments made to theirs because it's not totally agricultural now?
Well, what we're doing with that one, that's the Rocky Pond Acres Solar Farm, is that they're working with the University of Maine to see if it's viable to do both at once.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they're doing on that solar farm is they're using translucent panels rather than totally opaque panels. And they're trying to see if that's enough light to let the blueberries grow, problem one. Problem two is, can we harvest them? Because get all this stuff in the way.
And that
They'd have
wasn't,
to hand rake 'em.
I mean, there's one across the street from Rocky. I mean, it wasn't necessarily that.
No, no, I'm saying it's a
But-
perfect example to your question. So the answer is unknown, and what I thought made sense to do was to cooperate with them. They put me in touch with the people at the University of Maine Cooperative Extension who they're working with, and as they file reports, I'll get them. And, and I said to them, unless, here, let me answer that question, I'll come back to this. I'll get the information, and if it's not productive, we'll have something to talk about. But also, the thresholds for farmland are so low that they could meet that threshold because they're only using 10 acres for the solar panels. They could meet the threshold on all the other land, and there's nothing we can do about it. One of the things that I would like to see the legislature do is tighten up those current use programs and bring the numbers up to the modern reality, which I've tried to do in the past. They prefer to leave it alone because Augusta enjoys spending our money.
Isn't it $2,000?
2,000, that's it, 2,000, gross, not even
Right,
net,
yeah,
gross.
right, so, yeah, it's really low.
I mean,
I know. Yeah, okay. And that program is a good program. I've been watching, following along.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they're
Their whole-
successful.
Yeah, they're trying to do that in a few different of these solar
Yeah.
farms, to see if we can mix match the
Yeah,
production. off of
I
this
think
land.
like sheep grazing underneath is perfect.
Yeah.
Goats,
Uh,
some
go-
goats
No, I
up
don't
there.
go goats, because goats jump up. They'll
Oh, yeah,
they'll
they
go on
do.
top of the panels.
Might be a problem.
Sheep don't do that.
True, that's true, yeah. Panel one's down. All right, any other questions for Carrie? Nope, all right, thank you,
All right,
Carrie.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for always having your finger on the pulse, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is the West Rockport Fire Station bids. So Amanda, it is Amanda, right? I'm sorry,
Yep.
okay. And Jason's here.
recuperating Jason is here.
Okay.
So I'll start
Yes,
while
please.
they're getting comfortable here. You can sit over here. I'm not gonna no, you can sit.
I won't touch
No, you
you,
got your
okay?
bad shoulders facing me, and I didn't hit you earlier,
That's right, we
so
won't
we're
hit.
onto something there. So today we opened bids for the West Rockport Fire Station. I received 4 bids. Before we go through those bids, I want to just show you this sheet, this additional cost
Okay.
sheet. Because these are the owner costs that are really going to go into creating a budget that we'll need to approve. So before we're even talking about who and where and what, we need to really talk about some of the basics. And Amanda was kind enough to put a lot of this together. We talked a little bit this afternoon and sharpened some of these items up. But effectively, this is the budget before we even start talking about shovels and excavators and swinging hammers. These are the projects we need to hit. So as you see here, obviously permits, materials testing, we had to do some inspections about lead and asbestos. We did find some asbestos in the building, which is probably not a shock given its vintage. Everyone watching at home is probably, can they see what we're seeing right here? Okay.
All right, I was like,
Wow,
what's going
yeah.
on here?
I feel like we're in a roller coaster. But largely what we're talking about here is this, obviously we have that testing, there's some furniture, which would be a budgetary allowance. We'll need a survey for the building corners, construction, some miscellaneous abatement. There's a water connection we want to make before the DOT does its work in the intersection. So even before we're sort of talking about, construction and contractors on site, this is a separate deal to try to get that water line connected before the paving is completed on Route 90. By us doing that, we obviously save greatly in sort of the long-term costs, because once they pave it, they don't want you to open that road up again. Some security fire alarms, and then a contingency. That contingency here is based upon 10% of the bid amount, but obviously that 10% is dictated by what we have on what we see for bids. there are some items that will need to come through the town budget subsequent years, not this year, not this FY '24 budget, but '25 and beyond. Certainly Jason will be trying to pick away at items where he can within existing budget lines. But these are sort of some of the things from bedding to, mattresses to things that are just more flexible. So when you put all that together, that's a little over $500,000 before we've really started to build a building. So you take that, put that aside, and then we have the bids we received. So we received 4 bids, Main Coast Construction, DP Porter, Ganniston Construction, and Blaine Casey. The bids ranged from just over 3.2 million to just under 3.8 million. There was,
Tell me I know obviously Maine Coast is local,
Yep.
but like where is DP Porter and Ganniston and Blaine, where are they located?
go ahead, Amanda.
Yeah, Blaine Casey is Augusta,
Okay,
Ganniston is Augusta, and DP Porter is generally Bangor area.
okay.
Yeah.
Just I hadn't heard
Yep.
of them before,
Yep.
so, okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, so, I mean, basically, the low bid is Main Coast Construction, the local bidder, which is obviously a nice thing to see. Nice to see local bidders in this process. And again, we just opened these bids literally 3 hours ago, so there hasn't been an exhaustive review of what's in these bids. But the bid packet that Amanda sent is pretty substantial. There have been 4 addendums through the process, so basically what the addendums are, as contractors are reviewing the bid specs, they'll ask questions, and so there may be clarifications or modifications to what's included in the bid, so that all bidders by the end, before they submit their bids, are bidding on the same documents. So in this process, we have a spread of, what was it, 15%?
About 15, yep.
Yeah, which, isn't crazy, and it also puts us in a position where, while they're not all right around the same dollar figure, it's a close enough number such that you can feel confident that they looked at these documents and had a similar thought process. Obviously, the fear is if you have a big spread, what are we missing? What are they missing? So we feel like we have a good response. I'd say that we have a good, all 4 of these contractors are well thought of in the field. Obviously Main Coast being a local firm, a lot of us are familiar with their work and the Davies work over the years, but DP Porter, Ganniston, Blaine Casey, large construction projects throughout central Maine, eastern Maine. You'll see their names on all of those, sometimes schools, municipal buildings, and so forth. So all 4 are familiar. So I would say before you even talk about price, I think we got a good read of the market, of what we're asking for, what our expectations are. And unfortunately, the cost is a lot more than what we talked about
Initially,
2 years ago when I came on board and sort of said, well, this is where the number is. I think we got a quote from a contractor at that time of around $2 million. But as we talked at the meeting on the 13th, the last board meeting, that market has changed. And unfortunately, our project is in that market, and the numbers seem to have gone up, and not just one, but all 4 recognize that. So that's a challenge. There isn't a lot of time for the board to make decisions or do different things with this. To include this project on the June ballot, you'd need to have, you need to take that action and create a question for the voters to consider and have that approved a week from tonight. So there isn't a lot of time. We are planning to meet with the lowest bidder, Main Coast Construction, tomorrow, I think.
Yes, yep.
and hope to have a conversation, learn a little bit more about their bid. Hopefully, if there's some time to have gone through their bid, for us to
Yeah.
ask some educated questions.
So that's where I was gonna go.
Yeah.
I mean, I get where you're going, and I appreciate the local company, but between now and next Monday, you will have had a more thorough chance to look through all of them to make sure that they're okay to be bidding.
Right.
And then Monday, you will come with a recommendation.
Yeah. Yeah. I would also add, though, you know, I would hope that, you know, there are, obviously, when you get into these meetings, and certainly Amanda and Bill thankfully has joined us, when you're in these meetings, you do, from my experience having done this, you know, there is okay, now we're past the bid part. Let's really talk about what you see, what we see. How can we make this work better for both sides? Sometimes there are places to save. Sometimes there are places you have to spend because there are things you recognize, oh, geez, we should do this, we should do that. So you get to have that honest conversation now that the bids are opened and done. But there's not a lot of time, to Mark's point. You know, there's not a lot of time for us to do that. And, you know, I would, and from my perspective to you all, to the four of you, or five of you, Jimmy's watching, is that there's going to have to be some unknowns in this, and there's going to have to be, perhaps there's a time to talk about ways in which we can shave some things that are beyond that, but it will take far more time than we can really accomplish in the next week, right? That's the hard part.
Yeah, so explain to us the urgency, because it's really hard to justify to our voters that we're authorizing the single biggest capital project in the town with a week.
Well, I think this is a process that hasn't come down to a week. I think it's been a process that's been going on for years. You know, honestly, the cost of $2 million was before I was even hired. That price was out there. This has been a committee. There's been a committee that's been working on this 5-7 years. I think more importantly is what's ahead as opposed to what's happened. We have a building that's 1973, literally shingles sliding off the roof as we're talking to contractors. That building is a no-go. That building it's so far past its prime, it doesn't recognize itself. So we are now at a point where we have to do something, and clearly there has been a defined need of what this building can accomplish, not just now, not just tomorrow or when this building's built, but in the near term as how we offer the fire service in Rockport adapts from effectively a 99% volunteer-based service with a full-time chief to something that's that is different, that has full-time employees, that has first responders and EMTs. That's not the fire service of 1973, 83, 93. So we're now in a place where we have to look at the future, confront it head on. I think that a lot of care and planning has gone into what's included in this building to not be asking for the latest and greatest, but the worst thing in the world we could do is build a building immediately too small. And I think that would have been the greatest fear I would have had, is that we would have designed something that was serving our needs today, but not thinking about, forget about 5 minutes from now, but it could be 5 minutes from now. It could be that we need to offer EMS services. The town of Rockport needs to offer EMS services. And that's not as far afield as it could be, or we're partnering with an EMS service. And the ability for that EMS service to have a home, to have a place where they can work out of and they can work with our fire department, that's not a reality for today. And so unfortunately, you know, I think a lot of this is foisted upon us. I think the condition of the building dictates we have to do something immediately. But I think also, apart from that, the needs and the scope haven't dramatically changed. even through those 2 years, what has changed is the market. The cost per square foot, that when Amanda had a conversation with me, I want to say a week or two before Amanda came into your last meeting and said, this is what I'm hearing, or this is what's out there. That's not a place, that's a very uncomfortable place for us to be, because that $2 million number is something that's been out in the public for a long time. This is what it will cost to accomplish this project.
So now we're saying realistically 3.7 to 4.2, right? I mean, by the time you
Depending
add
upon-
in the
Depending on who
additional
you're picking.
costs and, you know, from your lowest bidder to your highest bidder. The challenge is that's not going to go down. I mean,
Right.
realistically, the way that price per square foot, as we've seen, it's now doubled from what we were 2 years ago.
Right.
The reason we're holding a 10, it's okay to,
Yeah,
John,
go,
the the reason we're holding a 10% contingency is because we had immediate feedback from potential bidders and bidders that you're going to see cost increases in the period between now and June, and when we would like to start in September. So it's not only not going down, it's still going up quickly and unpredictably. So we're holding that large of a contingency to hopefully be able to capture some of that and not see change orders through the course of the project. So it's always changing. And the numbers we're seeing for square footage compared to what we would have seen even 2 years ago, it's just astronomically different.
From a comparison, and I know, Eric, you were talking about it, of other stations that have been built recently, what are some of those? I mean, I think you said Brunswick was 15 million or something?
Yeah, it's a different facility than ours. Jason probably knows way better than I do,
times the
but
size.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
And I think it was
significantly
20-something million.
Was it
It was
25
25
finished?
million.
There was a smaller one right on the coast here, somewhere between here and Ellsworth. It was around 4 million they just did.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one, but it was on the
Really.
news not long ago.
It's unfortunate. I mean, I don't know, there isn't a great, I mean, to Denise's point, there isn't a great answer to it. It's, you know, and I think we can say, well, look at eggs. Look at the fact that we may be back at $4 gas. Look at where, you know, all the electricity prices. I mean, we're all paying more for everything.
Now that
But-
we've paid it, it's not,
Right,
it's
right.
not gonna go down.
It's
I mean, that's-
there, right, and then on top of that, we've got the fact, but there's something different when you say it's this building and it's 4 to 2. You know, that's a difficult thing
It's a
to
lot of
to
money.
weigh.
It absolutely is.
Stepping back, you say, if we had known these costs were going to be this, is this the building we would have designed? I mean, is the
Right.
building sort of what it has to be?
Yeah, I mean, Jason's the best to talk about this, but from my perspective, we have not found any extra space, and there's not decorative items or fixtures that are causing big cost increases.
Future, but you're not overbuilding.
when
And
we
you're
talk-
building a building with solid systems, the proper ventilation systems, the proper systems these guys need to ventilate for the trucks, provide sleeping quarters, a reasonable amount of meeting space, 3 offices for, as John said, thinking about things that could come on board pretty quickly. So, yeah.
And this isn't anything new. I started 10 years ago. I think 7 years ago, I brought it to, at the time, the previous town manager as well as the board. For 2 years, I was told that it's not the priority. This building is the priority, so it kept getting pushed down the road because at the time that they felt that that was the priority was here. So 7 years ago, it was needed then. So it just keeps getting kicked down the road, kicked down the road, kicked down the road. 2 of the offices are big enough to get a desk in and 1 chair. They're small. There's 2 bedrooms, and the only reason we have 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms is because female, male. Those bedrooms have bunk beds. They don't have 6 bedrooms with officers' quarters and this and that. So it's just 2 bedrooms with bunk beds, 2 bathrooms for female and male, which you have to do, obviously. Even the main office is extremely small. There's nothing big in this building other than the storage for the equipment and the apparatus.
Meeting room will be shared by those staying overnight and meeting, so there's a compromise there, unlike a lot of fire stations, where you'd have separate living space for the crew.
So what, oh, go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just gonna say, I was doing a little, because I was trying to find that. Randolph was 2.55 million, Mount Desert was 4.5, that was the one I was thinking about. So,
All within that same,
yeah, I don't know what their sizes are, but
right,
Right.
right,
prices are
right.
within the reason.
Right.
And so when you do your meeting with Maine Coast, I mean, you'll go through kind of everything that would be expected, kind of what they're, what they're recommending for products and
Yeah.
all of that, right? And
Yeah,
kind of
we
be able
will.
to poke some holes and see what's,
Yeah, and in this meeting in particular, trying to work with them to see if we can fill in this line item for asbestos abatement, get a little bit, some idea to plug into this budget. That's one thing in particular, but yeah, just generally
and
review the
then
bid.
what's the alternate one? Is that
Alternate
ceiling
one,
tiles or
yeah.
something, John? said?
Alternate one. So on a recent project, we've had a sprinkler system that required us to do a ceiling tile, which is non-combustible, which means it will not catch fire. That's different than almost any ceiling tile out there. They're much more expensive. And so depending on the sprinkler bid, the type of system that's ultimately used, we may need to go to that here. And so we just wanted to have that money in the
Requirement
budget.
for us to
Yes.
do it, not a
Yeah,
nice to have.
it's not something we've
but-
ever had to do before, but
Okay.
we wanted to have it in the budget.
Okay.
just in
that's-
case.
That's good to know. I read it initially as 9 million, so I was like,
Yeah,
It was a bigger deal back then.
gold plated, yep. That's right.
Cool, please.
I know, I guess it was at the Brunswick station, got grant money. Is there any opportunity for grants here? With the EMS, with,
Well, we're not doing EMS yet, so until you're actually doing it, you can't submit any of those grants.
so even though you're building space for it,
For it,
if you're not,
Correct.
okay.
I know Randolph, I think, got 1.8 on a quick read from Susan Collins.
I think there are, fire stations are something that people like to give towards. I think that our residents and businesses and nonprofits have been very generous with our town, our fire department. I mean, obviously, the good part of the side-by-side project was funded by, interested businesses and donors. And I think there are certainly areas in which they can be helpful in that regard,
well, and we will have potentially,
as well.
what, a 1 million towards the
Right.
project?
Right.
Where's Orion, or has he been looking into seeking funds, grants, such as through Collins's office? I mean, what has he done lately to,
Oh, they're sick of listening to him, to be honest with you. He's been in their ear on a number of projects. The earmark process is going on right now, and so our wastewater issues have been sort of foremost and front of mind with our conversations with them. And King's office, and Pingree's office, and anyone who will take our phone
that's
calls.
with the wastewater?
Wastewater,
So
yeah.
what has he done for this type of
He
project?
really hasn't, and part of that's because I think if you ask for everything under the moon, you'll get nothing. And my sense is that while we could ask for everything, the ask for our wastewater needs is so substantial,
Well-
we even have to pare that back a bit.
True, I mean, the ask type of thing, I mean, we need a fire station.
We do.
And I'm optimistically thinking we'll figure things out with our neighbors. So,
That'd be nice.
I mean, maybe the shift of focus a little bit. I
Yeah.
don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but maybe a shift of focus to see if there's anything
Yeah,
Well,
out there.
It doesn't
At least
hurt.
we can see what's out there.
Right.
it doesn't hurt.
Right.
Yep.
But I think the bigger question is, will we be in a position come Monday to be able to have questions answered and to be able to put this on a warrant? Because it has to, what's the drop dead date? April 14th?
Yeah, right,
I mean, we have our meeting Monday, but we do a little bit of leeway if
you
we
could.
needed to do
yeah,
something to be
Yeah.
comfortable with that.
right.
And is the planning board, then, when does that come into play?
So the planning board has already approved the project. There are changes, some minor changes to the site plan that will require subsequent approval, but we're really in a great place to go ahead. I mean,
But the warrant, don't they have to do some sort of public meeting?
Not on, well, they have to do a public meeting, but on changes to the ordinance, so nothing to do with this.
To do with the
Yeah.
budget piece of it.
Yeah. And there will be, obviously your recommendation will be part of this as well. So you have two votes, one to place it on and then one whether or not, your individual recommendations. So that will be
I mean,
next week.
listen, it's
Do
a
we
lot.
say, I'm really asking questions, not that I'm not
Yeah.
in favor of
Yeah.
this project, but because I know people who are concerned. So in terms of, maybe delay is not the right word, but why are we in this situation where we're just getting bids a week before we
Yep.
have to make a final decision? I mean, we had the $2 million quite a while ago.
Yeah.
What's the response or additional?
So,
information?
what, do you want
Yeah,
to start?
Go ahead, yeah.
We got the $2 million estimate about a year and 8 months ago. We proceeded to move ahead with the design drawings and construction drawings. Late last year, we decided to make a footprint change to the building, and so that took us a few more months than we had anticipated to make all those, or in the original schedule, just to make all those changes and coordinate it through a team of
And was that
myself
because
and
of the
5
EMS,
engineers.
The sort of new situation?
Yeah, so adding the office, changing the floor plan, pretty much every drawing in the set was modified to accommodate that. And it was absolutely the right thing to do. It just happened late in the game, so we were pushed back a couple months. I think we were set to go out in February before, early February. Yeah.
But are there, I don't think any of the changes or the growth in cost will really be all that impactful by that change, partly because of, obviously it's 2 months, but we part of the challenge that bidders had in this process is the idea that they're giving us a bid price. We're going to put a number on a warrant and say, okay, this is a not-to-exceed budget to include the soft cost plus the bid. Then the bidders are sitting there with a price in the wind as we go through our regular process.
2 months to go to ballot.
Exactly, and if prices are climbing at the same rate they are,
They're gonna, yeah,
right? Then we come back and we say, great, we got the money, let's sign a contract.
Now it's gone up
That
200,000.
right, so we have to, then we're signing then the board has to approve a contract. So there is a sort of, a bit of a dance there and a chicken or egg. Some projects, like this project, was built from a budget and then bid, right? There was sort of.
Right.
So the opposite.
November ballot and a May bid opening.
Exactly, right? So you have you have the funds, but you don't have the contract to, I think there's really two schools of thought. And I think on this project, well, let's try to do it a different way because let's give cost certainty to the voters. Let's give them exactly, we know who the bidder is, what's going to happen, and lay it all out, which makes a ton of sense. And I think hopefully the voters will appreciate the specificity that we can provide in terms of who we're working with and how it would work. The downside is that there's risk that and perhaps even higher costs that they're building into even this number because they don't know what's going to happen between, today, April 3rd and, June 27th, when we potentially could sign a contract. So there's risk that they have to carry as well. And so it's a really difficult thing. We wanted to provide the voters as much information as possible to make this happen. But, if we're right, if we're wrong, we'll find out. I don't know. There were those who were frustrated about the other process with the library without that certainty. So this is a response to that as much as anything.
When we were looking the last time, and Megan was here, and we anticipated monies coming from RES, and we believed it might be in the 2.6, so if I remember correctly, it was 137,000
Oh, boy.
Megan gave. So if there's an adjustment, I mean, if you're going for 2 million, 2.2,
Yeah.
what might that payment be? Can she
She's
do a
crunching.
crystal, or at least have it for next Monday.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, I,
Because it may not be this, I mean, if you go through it and it isn't this one, we go to the
Right.
next
We
one.
go to the next
yeah,
one.
yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else we need to cover here? I know we'll have more detail Monday and be able to make
Yeah,
the decision and have a very small window, but if there are things we need to question, we do have a few days in order to answer those before we have to have that warrant.
yeah, I think I guess request of the four of you and Jim, would be to, if there are questions that can that we can get, that would really help to, answer concerns, because I acknowledge it is a short window in between bid opening and, when you have to make a decision to put this on the ballot. Unfortunately, if we had gone further back, perhaps there would be more risk. So who knows if that's better or
Right,
worse?
And that's the challenge, right? And that's the
Right.
challenge of delaying, is if you
Yep.
say,
Delay the
delay it
cost
to
a lot
November,
more.
it's gonna continue to go up.
Right,
So
right.
it's kind of a double-edged sword, but
Yeah,
at least we know kind of what we're working with, and I think your conversation tomorrow will help to solidify that, we don't then get a big surprise, and it's now not a 10%, it's a 30%
Yep.
Right.
contingency, and
right.
so,
Yeah.
The goal would be, out of all of this, that once we get to, once we get through that meeting when the warrant is set, we're gonna have to, effectively accept that bid. So that would be our bidder. But until,
their situation, only because I've never been through this before, so if we have Maine Coast at 3-2, and then this is now obviously public, andGaniston or whoever comes back and says, well, hey, we've reconsidered and we'll do it for 3-1, I mean, does that happen, or no? You kind of say, we're gonna go with the lower bidder, and, okay,
yeah, lawyers get involved then.
okay, yeah,
because-
I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
imagine that would
Yeah.
happen, but once it's public, I guess that's your bid, you submitted your bid, and that's
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are times you've had, in the past, I've had conversations with multiple bidders to try to understand information about bids, like, let's say that two of these were very close.
Yeah.
What's the difference between these two? And obviously, right, in the ability to not always take the lowest bid.
Right.
But, it's, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't think so, but figured we'd
Yeah.
ask that.
So if there are questions, I would say, please, get them to me so that we can get those, answers for you if you need them by Monday. And then Megan texted me the answer, 173, Mark, decreasing over time. So that's the high number, is 173, and then,
136 before, now it's 173, that's an increase.
yeah.
Decrease
Yes,
in overtime.
but the next year would be like 171, 8, and then,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Right.
I just want that number to be,
Yeah, no, that's important.
yep, that's the one we have to fit.
So are you gonna compare the highest one to the lowest one, kind of to see why there's a $500,000 difference in the
Yeah,
bids?
so for tomorrow's meeting, we'll actually go through all the bids. They're all essentially came in on the same bid form, so we'll have a spreadsheet that shows mechanical at one price on one bid, mechanical on, so we can start to cross-reference and see why there might be significant differences and understand.
When I see set out numbers like that,
Yep,
yeah, I get a little leery that somebody missed something. And
yep,
I've worked in construction with estimators, and
Yep.
sometimes they're not always the
yeah.
quickest.
That, yeah, we
wasn't
have
that-
to
it
review
wasn't
them
that
thoroughly.
much difference with the library, there were variances of a fair significant number.
Yeah, at 15%, I feel pretty comfortable in this environment with four bidders.
Yeah,
We hope for 10. I think at 15, I think we still feel pretty
yeah, I
comfortable.
mean, I can understand if they're further away, then they've gotta
Yep,
put in per
Right.
diem and housing
Yeah.
and
Right, true.
all that extra
Expense, yeah.
expense that a local person won't have necessarily, but I don't know, $500,000 on a $3.5 million sounds a lot to me.
yeah.
Yeah, agree. All right. Well, thank you. I know it's a lot of
Yeah.
hard work. I know it's a lot of number crunching, but we will get there.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
It's also worth saying that the work doesn't stop on Monday either, that if it goes through, we'll be continuing to work through the June vote and then beyond that to settle the contract. So we'll do our best to inform ourselves and educate ourselves on all the bids before Monday, but
Great.
the work doesn't stop there to make sure we get the best value, so.
Appreciate that.
Bill, you've been very quiet.
And happy to be so, right?
You a ride?
Yeah, I got to text him, come get me.
Thank you.
Roger that. See you
Thanks,
in
Jason, for
Jonesport
joining
sometime.
us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next is budget. Megan, come on up.
15% is a good number. She may not, but I did.
All right.
You want to plug in?
What's that?
I didn't know if she wanted to plug in.
Oh,
Are you gonna bring, okay.
bring it to her.
Jesus, I must have said something.
Wow.
No.
You want me to plug in?
I know, God. All right, so we have been through a series of discussions about budget. We went through the select board recommendations, and then the budget committee met. And I don't have Clay's email in front of us. I'm sure I could pull that up.
Had it, yeah.
Let's see here.
It's just the $5,000 for assessing.
Yeah, that was the
Yeah.
only
That's right.
item that I saw was there, and I wasn't part of that conversation when that 5,000 was removed, so apologize for that if we need to rehash
No, I
any
did
of
that.
But, oh, you did that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
okay.
did
It
that.
wasn't actually taken out, it was, and I had it marked as something I wanted to bring up, but
Okay,
I never did. We got busy talking about something else and I forgot, so.
okay, perfect. So, they met on the 14th. While there were some discussions around wages and benefits, in the end, those did not change. The only change was a motion to put that $5,000 back into the assessing budget for the ortho mapping. So, any concerns in doing that?
No, like I
No,
said, I meant to
You
bring
meant
it
to
up,
bring it up
I
anyway,
had to put
so-
it back in and I forgot.
Small amount, and if it
Yeah.
allows us to
I,
write job, right?
yeah, I
What do you
agree. I
think?
don't,
I supported it. I was just trying to find ways
trying to
to
find things.
Cut some
to-
money.
cut and save a little bit, so the bottom line was a little
Okay.
bit rosier for, in the end.
Just put does 5,000 really matter on the number we're looking at?
the end of the
It's
day,
not
right.
500,000, it's only 5.
I know, I just,
I know, no, I agree
No,
where
you-
you're
you-
coming
Fine.
from.
You had a
But-
lot of 5,000.
But I'm saying,
Right.
in this regard, I think it's important that we have those accurate, and if we need to put the money aside so that in a year we can get it accurate, then it's going to help overall. So,
Okay, I don't have any concerns with putting it
It's just
back in. So what does that mean if Megan has it up and we put that back in?
before, so if that's the only other change, just to look globally.
Yeah,
So we also got some good news today.
we like good news.
So the CSD and the SAD, both? Yes, both school districts. Some of you may have seen on Village Soup that Rockland was going to gain more subsidy than they had anticipated. They've made some minor changes in their budget, but we are also going to be the recipients of more aid.
Fantastic.
We will be new recipients of aid.
Ooh, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well,
New
okay, I wanted to bury the lead, I guess, yeah.
which I mentioned a little earlier, remember?
Yeah, right, yes. The email came through today, so it was,
Yeah. I didn't know how much should be getting, so I
Yes.
was just hoping it was reasonable.
Yes, no, it was, so we went from, so our overall increase was before the 5,000 and before the school aid was 7.67, 68,
Something like that.
7.67? I think that's what you told me this morning. And we're now-
That's what we ended at. I don't
Yes.
remember what it was before, because I've changed the school numbers in here already.
I thought, right, that's what I said, I think that was before the school number. I think after the school number, though, we were down to 763.
I'm at 767 right now.
Okay, so what,
Let me make sure the school changes are still in there.
Okay.
what They should be.
because we were throwing these, anyway, we got the numbers, and so we're a little bit lower than we were before, and certainly 5,000, to Eric's point, doesn't really move the needle.
Right.
But we're still well under 8%, well under the cost of living adjustment for Social Security. you know, which was sort of the goal for, as we got to the end of the budget process, was,
Oh, the 8.7.
yeah. And I found out, and I saw that Medicare rates were gonna go down. I'm not sure, I didn't see the percentage, I heard it on the radio, so I didn't have an email, but I heard that this weekend on NPR, so. So that's a good thing.
Maybe that'll affect our health insurance rates.
That would be nice, boy. Well, you know, the other, that's one thing I haven't heard about with the health trust. We've had a lot of retirements, you know, in the last couple of years, and as a pool, I've got to believe our average age as,
It's gotta be going down.
yeah. So obviously, that's got to help our increase. So, anyway,
Is this a self-insured fund? I think it is, right? Yeah. Well, self-insured through that group.
yeah, through the group.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's see here.
Still seems like a lot for self-insured, but
So that's putting the 5,000 back in for assessing.
I don't have glasses, so tell me why.
So we're at
blurry.
7.67.
7.67, that's adding the 5,000 back and
Adjusting the school.
adjusting the school,
Yep.
okay.
And we used to be at.
I think it was
7 point-
783 at one.
It might,
point.
yeah, I think it was,
I think that's what it
I
was.
think
783,
I've
okay.
transposed them, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was
783.
So
783
783
before
down
these
to
changes.
7.67.
Yes, that
okay.
sounds right. Because I was
That's moving in the right
8778.
direction.
Right,
That's-
mhm.
Okay.
Got it. You'll never forget
So,
that. I can call you-
anyway,
I don't know what it is.
it's a good news story. It's a good
Ask me
news
what your
story.
name is tomorrow. I may
Got
not
it,
know.
yeah.
Right.
Boy.
Okay, so anything else we need to do with that now that you've added the 5,000 back? So in essence, we've accepted the budget committee's recommendation, okay? So we shouldn't have, do we meet with them? Do we have to meet with them? I know they had a tentative meeting, or we had one
We
on the
have
calendar
something
for
like
We're
some
that.
hoping
reason.
that they're not gonna have it. I emailed Clay this afternoon.
Okay,
but I
so
haven't
they're
heard
not
back
gonna
from
have
them.
it, we can, I guess, communicate with them.
And we
do
appreciate
that?
their
Do you
good
do
work
that?
and the thoughtfulness.
I usually do
You
it.
ju- okay,
I mean,
so
if you
Megan-
wanna send them. and
No,
then
no,
we
that's
can.
fine. No, you do, Megan. So Megan will send them the notification that we have accepted their recommendation to add the 5,000 back.
Right.
There's really no need to meet
Right.
further about it. And then come Monday is when we will go through the individual items, correct? Of the
the warrant
warrant, for
article.
the
No.
warrant?
No.
Oh,
No. Effectively tonight, you're approving the warrant, or the budget. So then we're gonna take the budget and we're gonna turn it into the warrant.
into the warrant question,
So,
okay.
so the warrant question, you know,
Right
being.
there.
Right.
Vote on that Monday, yeah.
Yes,
Right,
okay. Yeah,
recommendations.
yeah, okay.
We don't have to, we can ask John to do it. We can ask him to
To
read it.
him to read it? Yeah.
Yeah,
I can do
Didn't
that.
last year we had to go, and maybe we,
we split it up
Did
among
we
the
Split it
Everyone
up
got
like
one.
choral reading.
And it's
Yeah.
gonna be longer. Well, no, it should be shorter actually, because all of those questions are somewhat combined and we're trying to make them a little bit shorter.
Okay.
Because,
All
That's
right.
nice.
yeah,
a
that's
good-
nice, okay.
yeah.
Is, I'm just,
I
I'll
think,
wait until the end of this before I mention
so
it.
we still had the issue of, we never really resolved the Opera House budget. Because I know that they did the same thing I did
Yeah.
and said, no, so where are we at with the flooring?
Well, we're a little bit further than we had, than we were, but honestly, I don't think it's 100% resolved. I'd say we're probably like 80 to 90% resolved. And that's why I sort of haven't put it back on for you
No,
guys to
I'm-
talk about it,
Oh, I'm
because,
just curious, because I mean, we're talking about budgets and we
Right.
haven't just resolved that one issue. And if you're
Right.
gonna write the warrants and we decide that that budget's just, you know, what are we doing with
Well-
the money? Are we starting a Friends of Help Us Save the Opera House event, or are
Right.
we gonna do something? Or, you know, these are things we need to decide between now and Monday, writing a warrant.
right, so we don't have the report from the sprinkler company.
Yeah.
They haven't provided that to us, so we're still stuck with that. We are at a place, and Megan can talk a little bit more about this, but we are at a place where they've approved the bulk of the work to be done. It's, the subfloor is still not 100% resolved, but we think that the differential between what they were willing to do and where the subfloor is not a great sum, to the point where we can probably accomplish a floor that's warranted, that's vastly majority covered by insurance, and we can feel as though that we're putting the building back together as it was pre, you know. Now, I think there are still questions that you all want to talk about and should talk about in terms of long-term creative friends of, you know, some of the bigger, you know, windows, doors, insulation, HVAC, sprinkler. That's a conversation that I don't think, that needs to happen, one, but we're not gonna be able to have it before Monday.
No.
That's the hard
But-
part. I was hoping you could, though.
Yeah.
I was hoping you could have that conversation.
Because we've been waiting
So-
for those things for a while, not
Right.
from you, but I mean from the companies.
Yeah,
and-
I mean, I realize it's all
Hold on.
external and we can't just make it happen, but, you know, are we?
But if we get the flooring fixed,
Mm-hmm.
we can have events there, we can deal with the sort of
Right.
fire
Right.
requirements independent of the
Well,
sprinkler.
the sprinkler system's operational now, so we could have events there without any special direction from the
The
fire
flooring is what
marshals.
has to be done.
We need a floor.
We need a
Right.
floor.
And we've put in safe gaps for the sprinkler system, so if we lost power, the system's not gonna automatically charge. We put in some marine batteries with a backup system that Glenn has rigged up, and Glenn and Matt both know now that if we lose power downtown, that somebody needs to get over to the Opera House to make sure that the water's turned off, and if it did get charged in that time, to drain the system. They're both on the automatic call list for Seco Security, so if Glenn's away, Matt can come in and do it. So, I mean, the building's habitable once we get the
Once you
flooring
get the
fixed.
flooring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's back to pre-December 23rd status with a new floor on both levels, some sheetrock improvements, you know, repair and all that. The issue is, long-term,
Oh, right.
there's still that conversation
That's the
I think
bigger
that you need to
conversation.
have,
Right, but
you know? And I think you can do both. I think you can still operate out of that building, but maybe this is the canary in the coal mine for you to say, okay, we've got to make sure one way or the other, because quite frankly, you know, there's some real costs, I think, that you need to put into that building for it to be not just run to the next problem, right? Not just have a situation where we run from brush fire to brush fire, stamping it out, and okay, well, now the HVAC system's completely failed, and, you know,
Right.
that's how we get ahead, is have a real plan, get a friends of group, have people who really love and have passion for that place. Because, and I do, and Megan does, and a lot of our staff do. And I think a number of you do as
I
well.
think the more events, the more we can sort of get back,
People
sort
in
of
there,
the direction
right.
we're headed, that's how you create that love for that building.
Yeah, but we have to also, to the others who don't use this building, and say, how do we make sure the bottom line of the building, and we still deal with these issues? Because, you know, in 1993, when the last renovation occurred, you know, MBNA and others, there were a lot of donors who made that building a great place for 30 years. Well, you know, what does the next 30 look like? If on our current pace, it doesn't look very rosy. But can we, you know, tap into external sources? Because are taxpayers if taxpayers are solely the ones footing the bill, we have to really consider, is that the best model for how the building runs?
And it tends to mean we underinvest in it. 'Cause we're,
History tells us, yeah, that's what we do. So there's a lot of synergy with this building and the energy here and what could happen at the Opera House. You know, it's, as Megan said, under her leadership, we've done more there than we did the 10 years before. There's a lot of potential, but we need a plan. You know, we need a plan that we can feel good about. And I think, you know, we've got energy, we've got some management, but the hard brass tacks of those windows need replacement, those doors need replacement, the sprinkler system. They're not gonna replace themselves, and the price isn't gonna go down.
Price is gonna keep going up.
So we're sort of right back to, and now I'll put my other hat on and say, we have some real issues with our space at the town office. And we know that. We've got the public safety building. We've got to talk about those things. And we can't shortchange either. right? We can't we want to have a vibrant community space where all of our residents of different ages and sizes and shapes and colors and everybody can get together. But we also have a place where we can work, where we can hold elections, where we can have town meeting, where you all can meet and other committees, groups. And that's at risk right now, honestly. The space we have is not sufficient for that. So you have all these needs, but you've only got this much to pay for them, and that's the challenge, I think.
I don't
So,
think we realized how much we relied on the Opera House for stuff
You
like
couldn't
that
use it,
until we
right.
couldn't use it.
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah.
I feel like every time we turn around, we're trying to like chase our tail, try to
Right. Like,
find
where do you
somewhere to
put
have a
people? Where do you
meeting or,
fit people, right?
right,
Where do you
because
have
we
them?
don't have it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Do you
the
have an
challenge.
idea of the time frame for the flooring, just,
So, FI is gonna tackle this building sometime in June, and the Opera House will be after that.
so,
Because we don't wanna be doing this in the middle of summer. I mean, the Opera House is already closed, so we're gonna have to cancel more events as it is. Luckily, the insurance company is covering the cost of what revenue we would have generated from those canceled events.
of course,
My
we weren't
guess
doing a lot
is
of-
September, maybe, if we're lucky, we'll be able to be back open, but it's not gonna be this summer, probably.
We have a wedding booked for September that we want to preserve.
right now we have Will Shorts scheduled for September 8th.
So we're talking about leaving the budget as is then and just rolling it then?
Well, I was talking to Megan about that today. My intent would be, for right now, our staff in this current year are working for outside events largely in the summer. And, they're, in the park, in the harbor, they're supporting those efforts.
I'm not concerned so much with the staffing, because as long as they can sell other parts of Rockport,
Right,
that isn't really my concern. It's
Yeah.
more like, can we take a little money out of the utilities, because all we're doing is paying minimal electricity, water,
Right.
and sewer for the next 5 months?
One would think that's what we're paying, but that building is so old.
It just sucks
that,
it
and
up.
we
Sucks it right
installed those hands-free toilets, so
Yeah.
they flush every 12 hours or something.
Yeah.
It's an old building, so we're paying a ton to heat it. The
Yeah.
electricity, while there's not many lights on, our
Still,
electric
yeah.
bill really hasn't gone down over there.
Well, that's what I was just thinking, is there ways that we can just shave a little bit out of those general expenses that we're not gonna be spending for 3 or 4 months? But if not,
It
then I
sounds
guess
like
say
it's
we see
not.
we leave it and see what it does and roll the money and reserve, we can always
Yeah.
reserve the funds against the Opera House, or
Right.
just dump
Exactly.
it back into general on unassigned funds, but, I mean, the net isn't terrible, but, and a lot of it being salaries. I mean, the salaries are what, 75 plus some of the, benefits and interest, taxes. So I mean, really, that's what we're spending. So
Right.
even if we cut anything, because the net on that is what, 118, I think? So the salaries are 70 plus that, so we're looking at like 85,000, so you got about $30,000 variance in there, and if they're still reimbursing us for some of that, I guess we're not too far off. I just hate leaving money sitting on something we're not
Yeah.
gonna use it on
Right.
when our number's so high.
right.
If we could pare it down for for July and August, I mean, it's really only 2 months, but.
And Nancy and Carrie both are working on securing things for this winter and into the spring, so
Yeah.
that we can get back into a schedule that we were before this happened.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm not recommending changing salary lines. I was looking at like supplies and, we're not cleaning it for 2 months. We're not,
I think we'll still be where we are, just from
Yeah,
the
probably.
sheer volume of what we're gonna try to do
Yeah,
when we
so-
open the facility
so
back
we're gonna
up.
end up spending it to clean it when it's done anyway.
Well, right, so you won't
But
be
it-
cleaning it week to
That's-
week, but then you're gonna have a
But to
big
clean-
expense to
clean
get
all the
it,
dust and
right,
get it all
to get it ready,
clean.
right,
So,
makes sense,
I think it's all right to leave it then,
Okay.
and we'll just hope there's a little extra at the end of the year on that one.
That's my hope.
Yeah,
There's a little extra, and then you can apply it towards, the following year's budget, or put into a reserve, or,
Yeah.
you know, we know there's needs there, right?
Yeah,
And-
that's what I'm thinking, is, you know,
Yeah.
if we can manage to save some money, at least it can get stuck into building reserves at the end. You know, if we're not gonna take it off the front end.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely, that would be my approach. If we have money left over, that's where I'd love to put it back, just put it back into the building.
Right.
You know,
And I
we
think
know we're
that's the
gonna need
best way to
it.
do it,
Yeah.
so, okay.
So is there anything else
Let's
you
assume
need
it's good.
from us,
Well-
now that we've addressed that? Mark?
I have a budget question with regard to the 512,000 that 2A had given us.
Yep, yep.
What is your, what do you, which budget years are you going to be putting that in?
So those, the radios,
Well, I mean, just
some of those
The fire per,
Just
the
the-
fire marshal.
the number,
antennas,
5,
licensing.
Yeah.
So
the
those are
additional
going to
owner costs.
25 largely because, well, almost all. I mean, there may be some costs. Some of the radios could have been purchased potentially earlier.
so where I'm going with that is,
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a way that at the end of this year, there are things that can be encumbered
Yeah,
that fit even your contingency money, if there's any left of it. If we can start adding to that from this year's budget and what's
Away.
left over from next year's budget,
yeah,
we may come up with 75 or 100, which softens
totally,
what we need.
totally. No, I think that's a great
So I
idea.
just,
And allows you to start doing some of that,
Right.
right?
Right.
Right,
I mean, I'm looking at them, I mean, you know, the first block of permits, I mean, you know, there's probably enough that's gonna be left over, you know, furnishings. I mean,
Right.
with what's in the budget this year for furnishings, there's gonna be a fair chunk left over, possibly.
yeah. We had a pretty expensive repair on one of the rigs. It was a turbo went,
You just,
15, 12,000? What was it?
15.
Yeah,
just the idea of creating, creating that encumbered money specifically for this list of needs, so we can soften that when
Yeah.
when the time comes.
I think that's something that I think Jason does really well with, is when he has a quest, he can get really creative on things like that. And I think if the board sees this as a direction, he'll go out and get those. He'll find creative ways to deal with these things.
I just sent you one too,
Oh, you did? Okay.
that I found,
Oh, good.
Good,
for, it's a private grant that gives money for equipment and training,
Perfect.
fantastic.
so. it's
There we
probably
go.
Worth applying for. I found it while I was looking for building grants,
Oh, good. There you go.
Even better.
even if we get 10,000 out of it or
That's right.
something.
10,000
Someone
would be
else's money,
amazing.
we'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, any other questions from the board? John, anything else you need? Megan, anything else you need from us?
Nope.
No, we're good?
We'll be back. Yeah.
Okay, so we can adjourn, is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Perfect.
Till Monday.
I hope.
Get back on Monday. We'll be right here on Monday, right?
Right here. Yep.
I like this meeting space.
Yeah, it's nice. and-
Nice. Yeah.
It's brighter,
Yes, it is.
it
Yeah.
is, and it doesn't feel as squishy,
It's
squishy.
when you walk on, oh,
Well, the other
Yeah, if
space
your room
feels
is squishy.
squishy.
oh,
Now it turned out the
squishy?
floor was like failing under us. We
Yeah.
didn't even notice.